I didn't cry when my ex-mother-in-law announced to an entire hospital hallway that I'd failed as a woman. I was still wearing my trauma scrubs, still had someone else's blood under my fingernails, and she smiled at me like she was delivering good news. "Mark finally has a son," Carol said, loud enough for the nurses to turn their heads. "Such a blessing after, well," and she gave me that look. You know the one. The polite, poisonous pity. "My name is Myra Spencer. I'm 36. I can intubate a crashing patient without blinking. But 6 years of being called the broken one? That nearly did me in. If you're new here, this is her untold revenge. And no, this isn't a revenge story the way you think. It's quieter than that. It's sharper." Let me back up. When Mark and I were married, we tried for a baby for almost 3 years. At first, it was hopeful. Charting cycles, buying ovulation kits, joking about baby names. Then it became mechanical. Then it became silent. The silence was the worst part. It sat at our dinner table like a third person. Heavy. Watching. I suggested testing. Calmly. Clinically. "Let's just rule things out," I said one night while loading the dishwasher. Mark stiffened. "There's nothing wrong with me," he snapped. "Bishop men don't have those issues." He said it like it was a family motto stitched on a pillow somewhere. So I got tested alone. I still remember sitting in my car outside the clinic, reading the results. Completely normal. I laughed. Out of relief, mostly. I thought, okay, good. We'll figure it out together now. We didn't. Instead, whispers started. Soft at first. Carol's friends at church tilting their heads. Such a shame. Then louder. "Some women just aren't meant for motherhood." Carol loved that line. She used it like seasoning, and I stayed quiet. Because I believed the truth didn't need defending. Ouch, right? Mark filed for divorce on a Tuesday. No discussion. No counseling. Just papers on the counter and half his closet empty. By Friday, he'd moved in with Paige. Yes, that Paige. My best friend since high school. The one who held my hand when my dad died. The one who told me I deserved better, while apparently planning to take my husband. Small towns are brutal. People didn't ask what happened. They decided. Workaholic. Cold. Couldn't give him a family. It was like watching my reputation get rewritten in real time. I kept my head down and worked. The ER was the only place nobody looked at my womb before they looked at my skill. Then I lost a promotion. A leadership role I'd spent years earning. A board member pulled me aside and gently suggested my personal instability made me a risky choice. Personal instability. I almost laughed. I had sutured a teenager's scalp back together that morning while his mother fainted. But sure, unstable. That was the night something inside me shifted. I hired a lawyer, Ruth Calloway. Silver hair, steel spine. I told her everything. Carol's comments. The board. The damage. Ruth leaned back and said, "If they want to claim you were medically at fault, they'd better be prepared to prove it." And that's when I remembered something I'd buried. 7 years earlier, Mark had taken a solo trip to a specialist in the city, came home withdrawn, angry, dismissive. After that, he refused any more discussion about testing. At the time, I chalked it up to pride. But pride doesn't make a man shut down like that unless there's something to hide. Ruth filed a motion. If Mark's defense was that I was infertile, his medical records became relevant. They fought it hard. Privacy, harassment, fishing expedition, you name it. The judge allowed limited disclosure. I didn't see the file first. Ruth did. She called me into her office and slid a single page across the desk. One word stared back at me. Azoospermia. No measurable sperm. Diagnosed 7 years ago. I just sat there. I expected fireworks, anger, triumph, something dramatic. Instead, I felt quiet, like a bone had slipped back into place after being out for years. He knew. He knew when he let his mother blame me at potlucks. He knew when Paige comforted me on my couch. He knew when he walked away and let the town believe I was defective. And here's the part that made my stomach drop. Paige had given birth 3 weeks earlier to Mark's miracle baby boy. Except medically, that miracle didn't make sense. The same night Ruth confirmed the diagnosis, I got a text from Paige. First one in over a year. Please stop this. Think about the baby. Oh, I did. Because men with that diagnosis don't spontaneously father children. Not without intervention Mark never had. Which meant one of two things. The clinic was catastrophically wrong, or Mark's son wasn't Mark's. I didn't dig into hospital records. I didn't need to. The contradiction was already sitting in a courtroom. During the hearing, Ruth laid it out calmly. Statements made. Damages proven. Defense, claiming truth. And then, Mark's own medical diagnosis entered under protective order. You could feel the air leave the room. Carol actually whispered, "That can't be right." Mark went pale. Paige wouldn't look up. And then, like something out of a slow-motion movie, a man stood up in the back. Daniel Reyes. I didn't know him then. I learned later he'd dated Paige during the same window she'd started seeing Mark. He'd had doubts about timing. He'd been asking quiet questions. He had filed for a paternity test 2 days earlier. The results? Not Mark's child. The courtroom didn't erupt. It didn't need to. The truth has weight. It settles. Mark tried to argue. His voice cracked. The judge shut him down. Carol started crying. Not delicate tears, but gutted ones. And I stood there, steady as ever, and said, "I was never the reason we didn't have children. But you already knew that." I didn't yell. I didn't gloat. I just told the truth. The hospital board reinstated my candidacy. I got the leadership role. Mark moved out of state within months. Carol stopped attending church. Paige, well, she had her own reckoning to face with Daniel and that little boy. And me? I stopped carrying something that was never mine. I won't pretend it fixed everything. Betrayal leaves scars, but it also leaves clarity. I wasn't broken. I was quiet. There's a difference. Sometimes revenge isn't destruction. It's exposure. It's letting the truth stand in the center of the room and do what it does best. If you've ever swallowed a lie to keep the peace, if you've ever let someone else's shame sit on your shoulders because you loved them, I see you. Seriously. I do. And if this story hit something tender in you, subscribe to Her Untold Revenge. Share this with someone who needs to remember they were never the broken one. The truth doesn't rush, but when it arrives, oh, it doesn't miss.